Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Munisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Timonisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanek Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumati Monisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke kudan dagi olu, pakyuke sundan dagi nga, pakyuke tukdan dagi yi, tün yerme çıktı çingi olu, makyuke kudan dagi olu, makyuke sundan dagi nga, Ma köke tukdan dagi çıktı çingi olun. Om muni mun ha muni şakya Shakyamuni Svoha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Sashi Pöke Chushi Meto Chan Rirab Lingshi Nide Gembadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Ulwargi Drogu Namda Shingla Chöpar Sho Yidam Guru Radna Mindrala Kamniryata Yami Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Son Drola Pinchira Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chedan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchira Sangye Druparasho Nel Buddha, nel Dharma
In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. As we have already said many times, one thing is to understand, another thing is to realize. There are some aspects on which we can have some brief, short realizations where we're able to realize a virtuous inner state. For example, in relying correctly upon a spiritual guide, there can be particular moments of connection where one is able to do it well, then moments when that is not present, and then one lives as if there was like um, the wake, the trail of that, which continues. And there are some practices that help to sustain it. To sustain it, from the point of view of sutra, is called the relying, the fact of relying correctly upon the spiritual guide. And on the meditative side is to visualize Guru Buddha, that is one's own guru, both in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni or the guru itself. And one of my masters said that when we visualize our masters in Guru Buddha, since we could have had more masters, we could visualize them as if it was like a sort of hologram, because like if you look at it a bit more on the side, then is one, then on the other side is a bit the other, then maybe one, I don't know, wants to take the eyes of one, the mouth of the other, I don't know. But the idea is that they are all one thing. And then as one does this and gets into the analytical meditation, then goes a bit in the one-pointed meditation, then gets into the final conclusion. Another practice that there is in Vajrayana, the same essence, instead of being called the relying correctly upon the spiritual guide, which is a concept that is still present, is the practice of Guru Yoga. The practice of Guru Yoga, which in its turn, where there are in its turn two different modes. Initially I wanted to talk about other things, then I read here Guru Yoga. Usually, and I said, okay, usually this part is not explained here, but I think it fits well. There are two types of Guru Yoga, which is called the relative Guru Yoga and then the absolute Guru Yoga. Among the various meditation practices is treated, I could not say the most important maybe, but definitely the fundamental one, the practice of Guru Yoga, which is at the basis of everything else and to which is given the greatest emphasis on in general. To explain briefly, the relative Guru Yoga is to practice the 7 branches, 7 limbs, where one visualizes one's own guru, or also in the presence of one's own guru, where one prostrates, makes offerings, purifies the negativities, rejoices of the positive things, and then makes a request and dedications, and then there is also the part where one asks the blessings. And this is necessary because when one does this, there is a process inside of it of creating closeness, creating gratitude, of recognizing the qualities. And once this part is finished, then there is what is called the Absolute Guru Yoga. The Absolute Guru Yoga is practiced uniquely in meditation, predominantly actually in meditation. And it's a meditation that usually is not described with many words. The meditation, it's a meditation done predominantly in silence, and also it's not done so much in group. There is not recitation, so each one has its own time. Usually when you do it together, you pass it, you go through it quite quickly. You don't take the time. And it's a practice that it's done when one has already quite some experience. In a few words, it happens in the following way. The first part, we have visualized Guru Buddha in front of us. We have done the 7 limbs prayer, which can be done with a visualization, where one imagines the prostrations, the offerings, he openly admits, imagines to be in the presence of Guru Buddha and admits the mistakes and rejoices of the positive aspects, requests for the blessings, requests to be always with us. And here I add, please remain with me, guide me in every word that I say, in every thought that I have, in every action that I take during the day and during the night, during life in general and moment of death, in the bardo, in all the future rebirths. Please always be with me. And to me, this way of saying it, guide me with the Dharma, with your love, with your wisdom in every choice that I take, in every thought that I have, in every word that I say. This personally helps me as a direction. And one does this in a state where one visualizes, imagines, and as this is concluded, asks for the blessings. And in this request, what we are requesting actually is this interaction, to be able to interact physically, verbally, mentally. And also, if we do it in the visualization, we have this strong moment of request. Request is fundamental because, as we said previously, where there is no request, then hardly one will be able to receive. When we request something, then we open to receive. So make a request that is quite intense to receive the blessings, and then we imagine that from the 5 chakras of Guru Buddha, rays of light, white, yellow, blue, red and green in color, are emanated from the 5 chakras, just as in the self-healing practice. Who has familiarity in that practice, then it's easier. The negativities related to the crown chakra are purified, and so the same with the throat chakra, and so on. So it purifies the body, speech, and mind. It eliminates ignorance, attachment, anger, hatred, arrogance, avarice, the fear and jealousy, following the order of the chakras. And to get more into detail with this, then one should take the practice of the self-healing and see what are the mental defilements connected with the various chakras, and then this applies perfectly without having it to take it now. What one imagines is that then it goes to at the crown, it purifies the body, at the throat the word, and at the mind, the heart, the mind. Then when one gets into more detail, then there are the mental defilements that are purified, the qualities that are revitalized. And what one imagines is that when the nectar goes into one of the chakras, then it goes into each and every one of the subtle energy channels, loosening every tension on the emotional, mental, physical level, losing all of this. And we do this while we also do the recitation of the mantra of the Guru. The simplest mantra of the Guru that there is is Omaguru Buddha Siddhi Hum, which is at the beginning of the self-healing practice. Oma Hum. So Oma Hum means body, speech and mind. Guru Buddha is the Guru, inseparable from all the Buddhas. Siddhi means realizations. So it means basically, please Guru Buddha, give me all the realizations of body, speech and mind. So as one recites this mantra, one imagines rays of light and nectar coming. One can also recite the mantra of the Guru. You have the mantra of Lama that we always do at the beginning. And the difference between Omaguru Buddha Siddhi Hum and this mantra is the name that is placed there. Because Siddhi Hum is still the same, and in the middle the name is inserted. Omaguru Vajradhara is the way to say that the Guru is inseparable by all the Buddhas of Vajradhara. Then there is the name of Lama in Sanskrit. Varsamanya is a way of respect. Sarva means all, Siddhi realizations. So it means, oh, Guru Buddha, you who are inseparable from all Buddhas, venerable, grant me all the realizations of body, speech and mind. This is the meaning. Just one point, because then they come to ask me, Lama, what is your mantra? This is something that in general, everything has its own time, everything has its own moment. And for this, in general, there is no hurry. Various masters are seen as the essence of one, so it's okay to do the mantra of Lama Rinpoche, or you just Omaguru Buddha Siddhi Hum. Then everything will have its own time and moment. So as we recite the mantra, we visualize rays of light. One can do one at a time. One can accumulate the mantra, visualizing the chakra of the crown, then at the throat, then at the heart, then at the navel, and then at the secret chakra, or all together. And one can also visualize that the negativities on the gross, subtle and very subtle level are purified. This visualization can be done on many levels and many details can be added, but at the basis is this flow of light and nectar that when it comes towards us, we imagine that this is of the nature of love, of the nature of wisdom, and of the nature of awareness, of compassion, all the qualities that as they get into us, we are not able to do anything else if not to be in the same way, to not follow that. It's not that those realizations go out of the Guru Buddha and get into me. That's not the concept. The concept is that they get so close to me that I'm not able to not be like that. So as we receive, it's like the more we receive that nectar, the more we are in touch with it, the more it influences us, the more it revitalizes our qualities. And this is the part that is called the relative Guru Yoga. So the relative Guru Yoga is made out of the 7 limbs and the request for the blessings. And about this, there are many different texts. And actually, the text of the Guru Puja is where you have the preliminary practices, the 7 limbs, and the request for the blessings. Then you have the meditation on the path, on the stages of the path. If you take the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa or of Tara Chittamani, they're all done in the same way. 7 limbs, prayer, request of blessings, then the part of the absolute Guru Yoga. As I've said before, usually it's very brief, even if it's among the most important practices, usually is recited in a very short way, and then one remains there to meditate. There is not much to say about it or do. How does it happen? I make like a bit of a long route to get to the point. Our inner process of familiarization, of getting used to something, is based on the repetition of something. I repeat, and slowly, bit by bit, that thing becomes spontaneous, natural. But there are some inner states with which we have a hard time to induce ourselves to. Maybe we have our identity, me, unconditional love. I will never be able to do that. I really can't do it. Me, a deep state of bliss, realizing the ultimate nature of phenomena. I will never be able to do that. From my side, to expect me to have great generosity and patience, this is not me. I will not be able to do that. Imagine a person to which one cares a lot about. Once someone said that he did that with his grandma. This is completely fine. A person that represents for us a state of joy, a person that is the embodiment of joy somehow. And imagine bit by bit to get closer to that person, to be closer and closer, and to start to feel the influence of his or her own joy, so that at a certain point that is so close to us that we allow to kind of be embraced, surrounded by that, and we allow ourselves to experience what that person is. I can see myself like as a sad person, but for a moment I allow myself to go beyond myself and to experience how the other is. And somehow I let my identity go of who I am, how I am, and I allow myself to experience to be the other. And as I do this, naturally, if I do it well, what should I feel? Joy. And when I feel that joy, I familiarize with joy. So when we are in front of Guru Buddha and we have gone through the process of training in faith, gratitude, we recognize all the qualities and so on. After having done the part of receiving the blessings, and where we get closer and closer, where we do the part of light and nectar coming, that creates a profound intimacy. And after this is finished, then Guru Buddha comes towards us, becomes as small as a thumb, sitting on our crown. The crown chakra opens as like the upper part of a clarinet. Then Guru Buddha gets into the crown chakra, then gently goes down. The throne where he is sitting is absorbed to my crown chakra, to my heart chakra. There is a lotus flower with 8 petals. Guru Buddha goes down gently with a beautiful smile and sits at our heart. And as he sits there, inside of our heart chakra, there is a point of light, which is our very subtle mind and body, the so-called indestructible drop. It will be our very subtle body and mind, which we can imagine as a point of light, the so-called Siddhi syllable. We can imagine the home or a simple point of light. As Guru Buddha sits at our heart, the light that is at his heart and at our heart are mixed together, they melt together. The description that is given, it's as if our body and mind was like a piece of clay, and the Buddha going down, descending, is like the artist giving shape to that and makes a beautiful artwork. Because when we check the artwork created from some clay is made out of clay, the clay itself, but the shape is given by the artist. So the Guru Buddha coming is like the artist that through the blessings shapes our mind, body and mind, which transform. The moment when Guru Buddha descends and sits at our heart is when we allow ourselves to go beyond our ordinary identity. For a moment we say to ourselves, I allow myself to transcend the I and the mind, and I allow myself to rest in the being of Guru Buddha. It's as if we would let ourselves go and to be surrounded, embraced, and we imagine to be Guru Buddha. Our mind mixes with the mind of Guru Buddha, our mind, speech and body mix with the ones of Guru Buddha, and in each and every one of our aspects we become inseparable. With the verse Za Hum Ban Ho, Za is where Buddha is invited, Guru Buddha, then Hum enters, Bam becomes stable, and Ho becomes inseparable. At that moment, the most important thing is our attitude, where we somehow are overwhelmed by the compassion of Guru Buddha, where there is no room for our selfishness. There is so much love that our selfishness doesn't find any room to manifest itself. There is so much light that the shadow cannot be seen anymore. So our things, our little stupid things like because here and there is no more space for all of that. All of that is dissolved in that deep state of peace, of gratitude, awareness, of love, of harmony, of wisdom, that are words that I say to describe something that is beyond words. So this state of inner peace, and we allow ourselves to rest, to take refuge in this state of inner peace, and to meditate as ourselves being inseparable from the body, speech and mind of Guru Buddha. And as we remain in this state of meditation, this is the moment where we practice what is called the Absolute Guru Yoga. And it's something that is very strong. It goes quite beyond words. Something that as we go forward, then it becomes deeper and deeper. And it's interesting to see that in the part of the Absolute Guru Yoga, one of the most difficult aspects is not faith in Guru Buddha, it's the faith in ourselves. Is allowing ourselves to let go our attachment, our sense of inferiority and all the other things that we have, to leave all of these things, because there is a side where we are so attached to our identity. So we have to learn to let go and to allow ourselves to be one. And we become inseparable of the same nature. We allow ourselves to experience that state. And at this point of the practice, if we want, there are also other levels that go beyond. Then there is, at this moment, one could practice what is called Mahamudra. Mahamudra, in a few words, means to meditate on the emptiness of intrinsic existence of one's own mind. That is, or to meditate on the union of bliss and emptiness. Practices that are quite advanced. And the point that brings us closer to these practices is the Absolute Guru Yoga. And before that, the Relative Guru Yoga. And this is to say that a practice that once it's done well becomes a basis for a lot that comes after it. What I've seen up to today is that what is done in the first steps in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is always used in the steps ahead. So, like for example, maybe we want to get a good car, and first of all, maybe you get the tires. Then when we get the more advanced optional parts and so on, then you still need the tires. It's not that you don't need the basic parts. It's the parts, they are the parts that if they are missing, then everything else collapses. And so the same with the house. For as much as I can make a beautiful roof, beautiful details, also we can see it here in this temple. But if the foundations are not well made, then it won't sustain itself. In our case, here really talking about the temple itself, a funny thing, also it's quite auspicious, is that the foundations were already there as we got here. This was a place where horses would run. That's why it was circular, and this is all made extremely well, the foundations. And then we pulled up the wood structure, but the foundations were already here. And Lamaganchen, as I got here the first time, he said, this is our temple, and this was such a cold place made with cement, and the first things were the statues, and they were placed here when there was still no floor. Once I gave here the teachings on the Bodhisattva Charyavatara. Remember, it was one winter. At the beginning there were a few people, and as the days were passing, as I was talking, you will see the smoke coming out, and then there was only, at the end, only one person listening to me because it was so cold inside. And for many years we used it, and this brings another important aspect that connects to the practice of Guru Yoga, which is to bring the result into the path. Lama Ganchen came here and said, this is our temple. But everyone looked around and said, like, where? No, it's here. And started doing the practices. And then one brings the result in the path. It's not yet, but we leave it as if it was, so that then it becomes that. The center was born like that. If we had to make a business plan at the beginning, then we wouldn't have started at all. But it has always been this. Amaganchen has always had this vision and was able to bring it in the present, so that slowly it could be built. And so in this process, I am Guru Buddha? Not yet. Do I have these qualities? I hope I do, but I don't know how it is for you. Probably not. But I allow myself to experience it as if it was. I allow myself to live as if I already was. And in this way, bit by bit, we familiarize with it in a much deeper way. And this practice, as I said before, is like the foundations. Once it's very solid, stable, then an infinity of other floors can be built, many meditation systems, practices of the Tantra. Sherab Rinpoche transmitted us the practice of the Chod, of Vajrayogini, meditation on the Sutra. There is an infinity of things. The tradition of Tibetan Buddhism is extremely rich of different techniques. Also, this is part of the Tibetan culture, which is the aspect of taking many things and putting them together, like also Tibetan medicine, which is the union of Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese, and Greek, Persian medicine, plus the original Tibetan medicine. Tibetan astrology is the union of the Vedic astrology and the Chinese astrology. Buddhism is also like that. It was different things put together in a coherent way that will work. And Atisha at a certain point said, you Tibetans practice 100 deities and don't realize anyone. We Indians realize one of them and realize them all. And so this is one side that we should be careful of. But why are there many different practices? Because we are different. And each one of us needs a different approach, a different characteristic. There are practices using, for example, the part of desire as a tool for spiritual growth. Others that use aversion, others ignorance even. There are others that remain in a level where they don't get into this transformation level, which are easier at the beginning. And this is because we're different. But at the basis of any meditation technique that is deeper that we want to do in the Mahayana Buddhism, at the basis of those there is the practice of Guru Yoga, the practice of relying correctly upon the spiritual guide, and when we do this practice well, then everything else is a consequence, can come in a much more fluent way. So I invite you to do this practice, to request the blessings, and to before requesting the blessings, we go through the points of training our mind in faith and gratitude. Why do we need the guru? What are the benefits? Why the gratitude? And then slowly it comes, we receive the blessings, then it descends, sits at our heart. As we complete this moment of meditation, there are two different modes. I will explain the first one. That is where, as this is done, we visualize Guru Buddha remaining at our heart. So Guru Buddha is there. Then I say sitting, but actually Guru Buddha is neither male or female, it's a function. So we could have masters that are either men or women, to be correct from a point of view, from the point of view of gender. But the point is that Guru Buddha sits at our heart. Open and close a parenthesis also. When there was the process of looking for the reincarnation of Lama Ganchen, I did something for which I was always quite criticized inside of a certain context, but not from my masters that agreed. That in looking for the various possible children that were there, almost 50, half of them was male and half of them females. What I want is the real reincarnation of Lama Ganchen, and okay, I imagine that he will reincarnate as a human, but it could be either a man or a woman. It doesn't. There isn't a reason why it could be one or the other. Even if traditionally, for many centuries in Tibet, for example, men had much greater possibilities in society to act. It was like a society that had a bit of some problems from this point of view of gender equality. There was a part of me actually that wanted to, would have liked Lama Ganchen to be reincarnated as a woman. That would have been interesting for some aspects. Then there were other 5 children that had some very special characteristics. It was also said by my masters to take good care of them. It's as if Lama Ganchen came with his own entourage, and out of these other 4, 2 of them are male and 2 are females. So this is another particular beautiful thing. So we visualize Guru Buddha coming at our heart, going down at our heart, the Absolute Guru Yoga. As we meditate on the Absolute Guru Yoga, possibly we try to also go beyond the perception of space and time and to abstract the form. There is nothing else that the inner state of peace and joy and harmony. And when one does this well, then it's as if one will lose touch with space and time. There is not the here and there, now, after. There is just that state of bliss and peace where one is totally present. And then one gets out of that meditative state. One of the things that help is using the breath to breathe with awareness, and one starts to observe the world around oneself, the central channel, and then the body, and Guru Buddha sitting at our heart. We make a request to Guru Buddha to remain with us and to please guide us with every word that we say, every thought that we have, every action that we take. Please stay with me, guide me with your wisdom and compassion. And at this point, the lotus flower closes of 8 petals, and Guru Buddha remains at our heart, and then we do the daily activities. And during the day, whatever moment is always there with us. So when we look at something very beautiful, we could offer it to Guru Buddha at our heart. When during the day, for example, someone is coming us, praising us, and telling how good you are, and this and that, we direct those praises to Guru Buddha at our heart. When we are in a moment of difficulty, we take refuge in Guru Buddha at our heart. We remember his example, what would he have done, try to do the same way. We try to keep the same presence always with us. Then, when we do the practice again, the lotus flower is opened again, and then Guru Buddha in front of us comes, and then is absorbed again. Lama Rinpoche, whatever he will do, from getting into the car or talking to a conference or with a person, he constantly will do the practice of Guru Yoga. That actually, when, for example, at the beginning of every teaching, we start with this is the verse to request the blessings. This is the moment where we visualize Guru Buddha in front. Then I receive the blessings. If I do it once, then I visualize the rays of light all together. If I do it 3 times, then the 3 main chakras. If I do it more times, it's a continuous flow of the various chakras. As I finish the mantra, Father, your body is my body, your speech is my speech, your mind is my mind. Bless me so that I can become inseparable and of the same nature. Mother, your body is my body, your speech is my speech, your mind is my mind. Bless me so that I can become inseparable and of the same nature. Someone has already asked me, but why do you do first the father and the mother? If you imagine Lama Ganchen is your father or mother, here actually is as much father as mother. And here is because the concept father and mother has many meanings that transcend the ordinary concept of father and mother. It also relates to getting in touch with the various aspects of the guru, that is the male part, the female part, there is the part of the body, the part of the mind. There are many aspects that are taken into consideration together. So for this, this is the moment where we visualize the Guru Buddha descends and we meditate on the Absolute Guru Yoga. You can see that with few words, the first prayer, Locha Sampo, we visualize Guru Buddha in front, and possibly we do the 7 limbs prayers, and then we request the blessings. We recite the mantra, we receive the blessings, Pakyukeku and Makyukeku, then it's absorbed at our heart, and we meditate the Guru at our heart. And this is something that can be done in many different situations. When we have to talk with someone, for example, if someone works as a doctor, as a therapist, and has to help a person, you do that, and you imagine that what you're giving also comes from Guru Buddha that you have at your heart and that is given to the person. If we have to face a difficult moment, we do Guru Yoga, and Guru Buddha with us is accompanying us in death up to the moment of death, where this gives the total sustainment. And so it's a practice that has all the practice to be of great benefit and needs to be done, otherwise it doesn't work. But it's relatively simple. Then what happens across the centuries is that the various masters took this same practice and put it in different words, wrote some verses, got into the details to give more emphasis to a part or the other. But if we read carefully, the Guru Puja is nothing else but the practice of relative and absolute Guru Yoga. In Guru Puja, there is the verse Kyoniyama Kyoniyidam. As this is concluded, then there is the part where you ask for the blessings.
Questo è dell'altro Guru Yoga, scusate. Che il Guru Yoga di Tara Citamani e il Guru Puja, la prima parte è uguale, poi cambia leggermente. Dedar sowata be la macho jingi la jikejolo na. Dedar lenson sowata be tu la me kuson togi ne namle ducibe se karmatinga som rinda cice chunne na. Questo è sempre Guru Yoga di Tara Citamani. Il significato poi è lo stesso. ma è leggermente diverso. Comunque il verso dice, dopo aver
The verse says that after having made request for 3 times, rays of light and nectar come from the, the, the crown, throat, and heart, purifying the negativities of body, speech, and mind, giving me the 4 initiations, which mean to basically receive the blessings on a gross, subtle, and very subtle level, and then Guru Buddha comes at my heart and becomes inseparable. So it's exactly what we have explained before. There are many different ways. I invite you to take this next period from now until when we will give the next teachings to get familiarity with this practice. There is no hurry to get to other things. One can also take the practice of self-healing, going through the preliminary practices as we have already seen. Then one gets to Loccia Sampo, and then after Omaguru Buddha Siddhi Hum, then there is the relative Guru Yoga, absolute Guru Yoga, and then one can also do the dedications, and then not do the practice of self-healing itself. So for this I wanted to give an explanation also of this, because I believe that it's one of the most precious tools that I have. For example, one day I was on the plane going to, I don't remember if I was coming or going to Brazil, then at a certain point there was some turbulence. I never had any problem with that, but I was sitting there and I was very, very strong. And I said, okay. And at a certain point I asked myself, is there the possibility that I will die? In the sense that I don't believe that the turbulence will bring me to that, but death is something that will happen sooner or later. If I had to die now, what would I want? So in that moment, what do? The practice of absolute Guru Yoga. So I breathe in, I breathe, I briefly do the relative Guru Yoga, meditating on the mind as being inseparable from that, on the mind being of the nature of bliss and emptiness, and I try to remain in that state. And for me was the place, if I was in the moment that if I had to die and sooner or later it will happen, that's the place where I want to go internally. But Lama, maybe one would ask, what practice should I do to prepare myself for death? Maybe the practice of Powa, or many beautiful practices that are there. At the basis, that one of the things that gives us the greatest certainty of dying well is the practice of Guru Yoga. If at the moment of our death we are able to get in touch, to take refuge, and to meditate in the relative and absolute Guru Yoga, that gives us the certainty of dying well, and consequently to have a good rebirth. And so, for this I invite you with my whole heart to familiarize yourselves with this practice. I believe that, I know that it would be easier if I would give you something like, this is the manual, just recite this 3 times a day. But I believe that we should go beyond that. We should understand what is behind the words that are recited, and then words with which these practices are done. There are many. There is like the 6 sessions yoga written by Chokye Pachen. There is the short, the medium, the long version. There is the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. There is who practices the Guru Yoga of Tarachittamani, the Guru Yoga of Vajrayogini, the Guru Yoga inside the practice of Chod. There is the practice of Guru Yoga made with the preliminary practices and the recitation of the mantra of the Guru. There is the Guru Yoga inside the self-healing practice. Means to be used, there are different, but there are so many ways. Also the practice of Guru Puja itself. But what I wanted, and that first of all I would like you to understand what are the passages of Guru Yoga and what needs to happen inside of me. The words that we use to induce ourselves in that process can be many, but first of all we need to understand what is the process that we should live, because in all these practices of meditation with recitation there are 3 levels of the practice. The superficial level, The first level is what to recite and how to recite it. So there are the verses, the meaning of the words, and so on. The second level is what to visualize. The third level is what is the consciousness state to be generated. And usually this is not described. Actually, I believe that it's very important for us to remember that when we do the sadhana or a practice like Guru Puja, preliminary practices, whatever, the main goal is to generate a certain state of consciousness. In this case, is to generate faith, gratitude, connection with Guru Buddha, and bit by bit to allow this to get in touch with our qualities, to use this as a mean for that, and to allow ourselves to experience to be inseparable from Guru Buddha, which also means to allow us ourselves to experience the most beautiful part of ourselves. This is also interesting. If I get close to someone, and getting close to that person I feel something. So I am close to a wonderful person, and when I'm there I feel a particular joy. That person, the other, was nothing else but a mean through which I felt a joy that comes from me. It's not something that the other gave me that doesn't belong to me. I'm familiarizing with something that has a potential in me. When I do the practice of the Guru Yoga, the Guru that is absorbed in me is the condition that allows me to get in touch with the most beautiful part of myself. Whether it's of unconditional love, gratitude, of inner calmness, harmony, wisdom. We could also meditate every time on a different aspect of the practice of Guru Yoga, and this already helps a lot. But what we generate is something that at the basis we have the potential for. It's not something that the other gives us. And this is what we call receiving a blessing in our mind. When I do the practice of Absolute Guru Yoga, I am opening so that my mind can receive the blessings of Buddha on a deeper level. So let's try to understand what is the state of consciousness to be generated, the visualizations to be done, and the words to be recited. Words are important because it is said also that the old man of the meaning needs the stick of the words to walk. That means that if we don't have the words, then we will have a hard time directing our mind. So if we have some verses, starting from the preliminary practices to the Guru Yoga, that helps us a lot. What we have to be careful of is that the words wouldn't become just simple words, empty words, and that it wouldn't happen. Like for example in Tibetan, it's said is that when something is done in automatic way, without thinking a lot, something done just really badly, with no presence. Like if I want to say, you cleaned badly the room, what I say, what did you do? You cleaned for the benefit of all sentient beings? Why do we use this in a sarcastic way? To say that maybe one is there every day, more times a day, saying, in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, take refuge, and may I obtain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then at a certain point, there is the risk that it remains just as something being said, but that is not felt. And this, we should absolutely avoid it, be careful of. This is one of the dangers that there is for the practitioners, or at least those that aspire to be practitioners also. One of the dangers that we have in our practice is that at a certain point it becomes so automatic to recite some things, and we take refuge in the act of reciting what I have to do, and we forget that that is a tool to help something else. For this is wonderful to do the recitations, they're very important, necessary, but we should be careful of doing them in a way that touches our heart. So that when I say in Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment, I, I feel it with the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I obtain the state of Buddhahood. So I want to practice the 6 perfections. May I obtain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. So I care about beings, if not maybe in a constant way, at least when I recite those words, trying to induce myself in that. This is important for us, and not to get into some automatisms. Otherwise, like once that my father went to one of my masters, Geshe Tupta Rinchen, my main master of philosophy in India, and he said, "Look, Gela, I don't understand one thing. When I was at the beginning, that I was learning about Buddhism and so on, I would recite 100 times, I would recite one mala of Mani Padme Hum, and I would feel like a really great benefit. Now I do more than 1,000 a day. What is different? And I don't feel much. What is the difference? It doesn't work anymore." No, it's very simple, he said. At the beginning, you would sit there and do really slowly Om Mani Padme Hum. And now you're doing like this.
Ok? È ovvio che il risultato.
It's obvious that the result is something else.
Perciò
And so sometimes it's not the quantity but the quality. It's not how many mantras I recite a day. Of course, it's very beautiful to recite many mantras. It's not harmful, but it's important to do them with presence. So to take that moment, to breathe before that, to take refuge, to bring awareness, and to concentrate on that. Then one that has the habit of reciting the mantra during the day, as one is walking, working, that is a wonderful thing. But it's important to put the two things together without letting one or the other to take away the other. So the part of meditating, reflecting, of being present is fundamental, and the part of recitation is also important. Both of them have their own importance, and one helps the other. But because the danger is that if we try to do the practice of Guru Yoga without a part of recitation, the probability that we fall into a torpor or agitation, then that is huge. Then, okay, maybe you sit there, okay, now I will do the practice of Guru Yoga. So as I'm paying homage to Guru Buddha, making offerings, I've already thought about 25 other things. I'm going here and there. But when I have the words directing the mind, this helps me to keep on some rails. That is very useful. So the two things should be kept together. So I invite you to take the preliminary practices. There is also a book that was written, the Prayers for Peace Messengers, a yellow book. There was a small book that was created because Amagancha Rinpoche, when he was traveling, very often he will use all the moments to do practices. Even here in Albagnano, when you will go by car from Albagnano to Be, then you will take that time to do the Protector Puja or the practice of Guru Yoga. You will get into the car and will start reciting. When you will go to Milan, at least at the entrance of Milan was a constant recitation of the various practices. So while you were traveling in a bus or things like that, then people would start to make like little books with a collection of prayers, and then this book was created, which is the essence of what is recited. And there is a lot there, and that is very handy to have. And I invite you to look at the preliminary practices, to get into the preliminary practices with a certain attention. Sometimes the fact that it's called preliminary can give us the idea that it's something of minor importance. So let's try to see preliminary as the foundations of a house. If they're well built, then we can build beautiful things on the upper floors. If the house is not well built, it's pointless that we put like the insulation and beautiful windows and the ornament that also here is a pinnacle that it's here. Inside of that, on the roof, there is a beautiful pearl, a particular stone, because there was a master of Feng Shui. So he was like a superstar of Feng Shui. Let's not talk about the costs and everything. And among the various things that he said, okay, in the highest point, you should put like this pearl that actually stayed in the room of Lama Ganchen for a while before being put there. It was as big as a hand, as an apple, more or less. That during the day as a color there is more like white, more pink, and during the night it shines. So it collects the light during the day, and at night it shines. I don't know what the name is. So for example, inside of that there is that pearl. There are all the relics and so on. Wow, all that is possible because at the basis there are solid foundations. All the path that comes after that is possible and it's wonderful, but on the basis of a good Guru Yoga practice, of relying correctly upon the spiritual guide. And let's remember one thing, we'll never rely upon a spiritual guide correctly if I don't rely upon my own potential and capacity to walk along that path. When I do the prostrations, I am paying homage as much as my Guru, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, but also to my own potential and to the path that I have chosen for myself. Because otherwise it's like to say, how beautiful it would be to have that, but I don't believe I can do that. So to take refuge also means the faith in Guru Buddha and faith in oneself. The two things go together. So I invite you to take the preliminary practices, to look them one by one, the part of refuge, the part of Bodhicitta, the 7 limitless meditations, purification of place, purification of offerings, generation of the merit field, request of Guru Buddha to come, the offering of the mandala, request of the blessings, and the final absorption and the dedications. But look at the texts, read the translations, try to create some familiarity. And when one has a little time, then can do the shorter versions. When one has more time, can do the longer versions. The really correct way to proceed is that when we are at the beginning of a practice, we should make the middle version of that practice. So neither too short nor too long. When we create familiarity with it, we should do the long, extended version, getting into the details on each one of the parts, getting into the details on the part of the prostrations, the offerings, each one of the 7 limbs, everything in the minimum details. Once one has created familiarity with the practice in the minimum details, does the very short practice maintaining the details. It is said that masters of the Kadampa tradition, the disciples of Atisha, they will be able to review mentally all the stages of the path, from relying correctly upon the spiritual guide until the obtainment of Buddhahood in the time that was necessary to get on the horse. So in a few seconds they will review the whole path. It's not so complex actually, but this was the level of familiarity that they had. So when we take a practice, remember this path, first the middle version, then the long version, then the short one. Then you go back to maybe the long one sometimes to regain familiarity, but this is the path that is there. You have all the conditions to practice, the transmission, knowledge. I also gave you the part of what is the inner meaning other than the outer meaning, and I'm sure that it's very likely they will have doubts, things that one cannot understand. Am I doing right or not? Don't worry so much. The important thing is to do and to learn. Then bit by bit we kind of fix here and there, but we have to go forward. There are no side effects. There are some meditation practices that can have side effects that are negative if not done properly, but are not these practices, so don't worry. Those that can have them are practices that generate the winds, so the inner energies in a certain way, and if one doesn't do them well, can make some confusion in the energies and can also go a bit nuts. This is not the case of this practice anyway. So please try, bring this home, and in order to do this we have to create some space. Let's remember the example that I gave today of the house where there was no room for doing the meditation. So what happens is that we should create a physical and temporal spaces according to our priorities. Is it important for me to familiarize myself with the path, familiarize myself with relying correctly upon the spiritual guide, getting closer to improving this relationship more and more? Okay, then I should meditate on this 10 times a day, 15 minutes. That's completely fine. Then if one sits there for 1 hour, that's fine. But if one has, one should take a minimum commitment and do it. The times that we live, I feel like that the fixed time commitments have more value than the indeterminate commitments.
Quando finisce quel mese posso riprendere per un altro. Okay? Quindi vi invito di prendere un periodo in cui prendete all'interno della vostra giornata.
So I invite you to take a period inside of your day, even if it's like just 2 days a week, possibly every day. One takes like some space where one does the part of the preliminary practices with the part of the Guru Yoga and tries to make one's own experience of what we have talked about until now. And this is what actually makes all the difference. And as I said before, one of the previous times, the way with which we are approaching these teachings, I like it a lot because it is very similar to the way that the great masters of our lineage, like Pabonka Rinpoche, did it. So, like, Pabonka Rinpoche, when he was studying the Lam Rim, he would, when he would receive the teachings on a small part, like, okay, how to rely upon a spiritual guide, he would go to meditate. He was living like more or less 1 hour of distance by feet, and in a hut in the mountains, and so he would sit there to meditate. And when he felt that he got an insight and understood something on a conceptual level, he would go back to the master and said, I understood the things like this and that. No, not again, not yet. Then go back to meditate. Then okay, we'll go back there and come back later. And so the fact that we are also creating some temporal space between the various steps of the teachings gives room to everyone to meditate on the various parts. So this is the time to meditate on the fact of relying correctly upon the spiritual guide and on what we talked about, which becomes like a sort of analytical meditation. So maybe one takes part of what we said, makes like a sort of it mounts it together and then uses it to kind of review the various steps. Do whatever you want. The important thing is that it works. But I invite you to not just let it pass through. Then if someone doesn't feel like it, that's completely fine. Maybe there is a moment where one is starting to get close to the practice and doesn't feel like doing this particular practice, then that's fine. But where's the possibility? Let's make this effort, let's create this physical, temporal space, and let's do what we are comfortable with. I invite you to not force too much, to not start by doing 2 hours, 25,000 mantras, and start by doing too much, and then after a week I feel like, how can I maintain it now? But if I take like a small commitment, if I think about, okay, I can meditate for half an hour, then I take a commitment for 15 minutes. Then if one does half an hour instead, then that's great, better, 40 minutes even. But then, because there is a strange thing that when we keep a commitment and maintain it every day, the day that we skip it, then 3 months pass, because when a commitment is broken, then you can't resume it, you have to start over. So I've seen it various times, this, like you take a commitment, you maintain it, and one day for whatever reason you don't sustain it, and then the day after, the same, and then at a certain point one day tries to start it again. And so for this, my masters have always said, commitment, you should keep them low to create continuity, then one can do more. So with this we conclude for today. I'm very happy to have touched this point of the relying correctly upon the spiritual guide. I'm quite satisfied of what we were able to see. And it's also the beauty of being able to walk together, what gives me a lot of joy. Also in seeing that partly there is something that is a bit strange. I was born in Brazil, and so what do I have to do with all of this? Then life brought me in the midst of this to be here today with all of that has been there. And one of the beautiful things of this is that we are not here for a cultural reason. We are not here because we look good to listen to the Lam Rim. Maybe someone, yes, if it's like that, better to change mind. We are here because we feel benefit, because we believe in something, and if we feel that something is touching us, and this is fundamental. And so it's very beautiful to do this, and so let's continue one step after the other, one day after the other, because let's also remember that this path is a path that is individual, but that is done in company. No one can do it for ourselves. We need help and company along this path. That is why we take refuge in the Dharma, which is the path itself, but there is the Guru guiding, and Buddha, and Sangha that sustains, which are important, equally important. Now let's make the dedication, the final dedications of the Lam Rim, which we can put on the screen. Then I will make it so that we can have translations of these prayers for everyone.
Sashi pöki chushi meto chan rirab lingshe nide gemba de sangye shindo mikte ulwargi drogu namda shingla che par sho jetsun lame kutse raptenchi namkar tinle chokchur gepa dan losan tempe drume sasumgi Drove Munsela Taktu Ne Gyurchi Yidaman Guru Ratna Mendral Kam Niryata Yami Terni Rindo bele tsonyi ni katra yangpa kanshe sakpa te lomi mari giton drowa na namdren gyawe wangbura dhagyur chi terma songwe tsera kuntu yang jambe yangi tsewe jesung ne tempe rimpa kunsa lamge che drupe gyalnam nyeche sho rangi jishin tokpe lamge ne shukra tsewe changpe tapke ki drowe yigi mumpa silche ne gyawe tempa yunrin zingyur chi tempa rinchen chogi makya pam kyabkya nyampra gyurwe chokterni ninje chembe yiraba kyepa ye pende terte telwa chebra sho seche gyawe mejon chinle le lekdro chancho lamge rimpe kyang tarde namge yila pelter shin gyawe zepa rinto kyongyur chi lamsan drupe tungen drupche chin gaken seche mida miming kun sera kundu gyawe ngakpa ye namda lamdan dralwar magyur chi kanse tekpa chola che che chu tsushin drupla tsumpa te itse tuden namge taktu trokche chi trashi gyatso chukun kyab kyur chi chanchu simchu rinpoche ma kepa naman kegyur kepa nyampara me payang kongne kontu pelwar sho simche neba chi nyepa nyurtu nele targyur chi drowe nini malyo taktu chungwa mebra sho menama tudan demba dan sanga dejo drupa kandro simbo la sopa ninje simdan dengyur chi chonam kuna ludan sim dunga neba chi nyepa teda dagi sonamgi dega gyatso topa reshon Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin Ninsen taktu delek pe kuncho sumki chingi lob Kuncho sumki ngodrubut sol Kuncho sumki trashisho Al-alba o al tramonto
At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and to sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Repeat after me.
Che lam tudro lam la parche miyong rashon possa la mente diventare
May the mind become the Dharma. May the Dharma become the path. May the path be free from interferences.
serwe ter chen resi drime kempe wampo jampe liang du pong ma lu jom tse sang we da kan chen ke pe tso gen tsong ka pa antrak pe shabla asolwade. Grazie a tutti.
Thank you, everyone. This moment, in a little bit, I will have to go to translate for Sherab Rinpoche again. And for this particularly, we didn't come after lunch. We'll come now for a brief moment. You're welcome, but then at 5 I have to go. But for a brief moment, you're welcome. For longer things, let's leave them for another time.